Good evening and welcome to the Monday, April 9th meeting of the Tuckahoe Village Board of Trustees. Will everyone please rise and join me in the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the village clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Giordano.
Present.
Trustee Andino.
Present.
Trustee Lang.
Present.
Mayor Eklund.
I am here tonight. I have no appointments to make tonight. We have a couple of presentations tonight. School's not here. Aaron? Oh, yes. Okay. Would you like to come on up to the podium and, I'm sorry. Just tell us your name and.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lee Liu, and I'm the Director of Finance and Facilities at the Tuckahoe Schools, and I'm here for Carl Albano tonight.
Thank you.
So, it's a privilege to be here tonight to provide you with information about the Tuckahoe Schools bond and budget and the trustee seat election. First, as a reminder, tomorrow, April 10th, between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., the district is holding a public vote for a $9,987,000 capital bond, which, if approved by a majority, will add new elementary classrooms to accommodate our growing enrollment, improve district-wide security systems, replace and repair our athletic fields, and address various projects caused by our aging infrastructure. Secondly, the school budget. On Tuesday, May 16th, we will hold our annual budget vote and the Board of Education trustee election. This year, the Tuckahoe Schools has proposed an annual budget for the 2018-19 school year of $34,025,550. This budget will be proposed to the Board of Education at their meeting on Tuesday, April 17th. The board will consider adopting it at that time. After that, the public will have an opportunity to approve this budget at the annual budget vote on Tuesday, May 16th. The total proposed budget is increasing by 4.7%, but the tax levy, the amount that taxpayers would contribute to the school budget, is proposed to increase by 3.12%. This tax levy increase does not require an override, as the increase is less than the amount that the New York State tax cap formula would have allowed the school district. That amount would have been 3.49%, so we're below that tax cap. And eligible homeowners will still receive their property tax credit checks, as the district is complying with the New York State property tax cap. The district has been within the New York State tax cap limit since its inception a few years ago, and our average tax levy increase over the last 5 years, including this upcoming year, is 1.99%. We continue to look for efficiencies and savings, and our savings and fund balances remain strong. The district anticipates increased tuition revenues from districts and parents that place their students in the Tuckahoe Schools for their education. These tuitions will provide our districts with over $1 million in revenues and helps to balance our budget. The district remains financially healthy, and that strength provides for the opportunity to do several things. In this budget, we are adding staff for enrollment increases and for New York State mandated services. The district also plans to maintain all educational and extracurricular programs. We continue to invest in the professional development for our teachers and our staff and for their educational and technology initiatives. In addition, funds are allocated for immediate security and infrastructure improvements for our schools. Some of the projects that will improve and enhance security are additional security monitors, additional security cameras, and access control systems. So again, I'd like to remind the community that the budget and trustee vote is on May 16th between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. And for all district votes, there are now just 2 locations to cast your ballot. At the Tuckahoe Community Center for all residents living west of Midland Avenue, and at the William Cottle Elementary School for all residents living east of Midland Avenue. And as a note, all Chester Heights residents now vote at the William E. Cottle Elementary School. The Chester Heights Fire Station is no longer a polling place for the district. And thank you. Are there any questions?
Well, no, I'm glad you came tonight. I know Dr. Albano mentioned that he wanted to come and make a presentation, so What time do the polls open?
They're open at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning for the bond vote, and on May 16th, the same time, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
And to 9 o'clock tomorrow as well.
As well tomorrow night till
Okay.
9 p.m.
All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is Aaron here tonight? Aaron. Aaron's going to talk to us about Earth Day. I know we've been going back and forth on email, so spotlight's on you. Not to be nervous now.
Good evening. My name is Erin Provenzano, and I'm a resident of Tuckahoe, living right along the Bronx River. In comparison to many other water bodies in the Hudson Valley, the Bronx River is humble and unassuming, yet it is New York City's only freshwater river and has been a home to many for centuries. Please join me in learning more about and advocating for our river this upcoming Earth Day weekend, Saturday, April 21st and Sunday, April 22nd. On Saturday, April 21st, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Tuckahoe Community Center, join members from the Bronx River Alliance, the Bronx River Sound Shore Audubon, the Tuckahoe Historical Society, the Eastchester Environmental Committee, the Tuckahoe Tree Committee, the Tuckahoe Public Library, and the Tuckahoe DPW, and many others, including White Plains Public Library local historian Ben Himmelfarb, Eastchester Town historian Richard Forliano, and Tuckahoe Mayor Steve Eklund. Organizations will have tables set up in the community center, providing informational materials on the organizations and any other relevant information on the Bronx River. There is a stage in the community center, and throughout the event, organizations and individuals or community members will be allowed to present. This can be a presentation on anything related to the river. So some examples, a Tuckahoe resident reading a memoir they wrote about their lifelong connection to the Bronx River, an organization telling the story about how they began their amazing work, a community member who wrote a song about the Bronx River and wants to perform it. I'm putting together a roster of organizations and individuals interested in presenting, so please let me know if you'd like to be included. Sunday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we will be at Parkway Oval Park. We will be doing a river cleanup, and it will give you a chance to interact with the river firsthand. Join members from the Bronx River Sound Shore Audubon, local scout troops, and Bronx River author and historian Stephen Paul DeVillo in learning about and cleaning up the river. The exact meeting place is going to be at the entrance of the park, near the intersection of Bronx Street and Lake Avenue. Bags and gloves will be provided by the Tuckahoe DPW. All ages are welcome. We are the Bronx River. Let's get together and celebrate on April 21st and 22nd. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Just a question or two?
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to come down and somebody's watching this and they're like, hey, you know what, great idea, let me go on down. Is the cleanup going to be on Saturday as well, too, or just on Sunday?
Just on Sunday.
Okay, got it.
And that's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And they show up at the at Parkway Oval,
Yeah,
which is where
Parkway.
we have our fireworks for people who are trying to visualize that. So, and just show up. There'll be gloves, everything you need to go ahead and pitch in the park there.
Yeah.
Good. We do have somebody who has a question here. That's good. You got an extra volunteer, a couple of volunteers.
Are they ever gonna go dredge the Parkway Oval part of the Bronx River and the Bronxville side? We used to fish there.
You know, it's funny, Smitty, I was going to mention that. When I was a kid, we used to go fishing down there. Yeah, we used to catch a lot of fish.
Bass out caught there.
Yep.
They put bass, they stop it, and no one would show up with a darn rod. So we caught the fish for them. Okay? They need to dredge that, because down in Bronxville, it looks to me like it's being overgrown with weeds and everything's gathering in the middle. I don't know who.
I think that's a county question. Yeah, that's Mr. Latimer would actually have a better answer on that. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Didn't George Washington fight, go up the Hudson,
At the Bronx River? I don't know about that. If he did, definitely before my time. So thank you very much. It's very nice that you're involved in this project. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of people now. That's good. Oh, perfect. That's great. All right, so tonight we have a public hearing. We have one public hearing, which is going to be on our budget. It's the public hearing to consider the tentative budget for fiscal year June 1, 2018 through May 31, 2019. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
In favor?
I'm sorry, Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. So the public hearing is now open, and David, maybe you can brief us on it.
Figured I'd just give you kind of a quick update about the budget. So this is the budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year. It was filed in the village clerk's office on March 20th. The budget proposes currently a 2% tax levy increase, which is in compliance with the New York State tax cap of 2%. The levy increase proposed is just shy of $158,000. Total expenditures in the budget are up 2.57%, or just shy of $320,000. This represents a tentative budget proposed tax rate. This is the tax rate increase of 2.68%. So on a average home or a home assessed at approximately $8,600, it's about $125 increase year over year. Just to let you know what's in this, I believe it's a very tight budget. It's a fiscally sound budget. It does not propose any layoffs. It does not propose any maintains the level of service throughout the village, no service reductions. It also increases capital expenditures. General fund capital increases by nearly $20,000. That's a nearly 10% increase. So it's just investment back into the infrastructure, maintaining our equipment and things like that. Most importantly, it does not appropriate any fund balance. This is our fourth year in a row that no fund balance has been used to balance the budget. So tonight, the Board of Trustees, you've already opened the public hearing. The public hearing must be closed either tonight or before April 20th. So if you don't close the public hearing, a special session would have to be scheduled to close the public hearing. That's per state law. There's two more budget work sessions, a recently scheduled work session for Tuesday, April 17th at 4:30. That'll be at Village Hall. And then another work session Saturday, April 21st at 8:30 a.m. The special budget adoption meeting is Monday, April 23rd, right here. The budget, per New York State law, must be adopted by May 1st, or the tentative budget becomes the budget for the fiscal year. If you have any questions? I'm happy
Actually,
to-
I just want to clarify something, because some people may not have understood. When you said that about appropriating from the fund balance, basically our fund balance is, we'll call it our savings account, and we have about $1.8 million, and it's, we're very proud of that. It took us a lot. It took us time and a lot of discipline to get our savings account / fund balance up to that level. And what happens is that, and this has happened in some years prior, when you're trying to, let's say, stay under the 2% tax cap, but you don't want to diminish the services that we're providing the constituents, and maybe you're stuck with, gee, you need an extra $100,000 or an extra $300,000. Well, in past years in other municipalities, they may say, you know what, we have this $1.8 million. Let's just go ahead and take and appropriate $100,000 from that line item, just so we can, we'll say, balance the budget. And that's something that we are doing our hardest to not do, something we're not doing this year. And I think that's important to mention that. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes, sir.
Hello, Board and Mayor. This is Albert Stern, 14 Westview. I want to comment on the budget. First of all, guess what? Village property taxes are going up again. Interestingly, the tax increase announcement came right after the recent election. Really good timing. With regard to this budget, there's really nothing in the overall picture that I see as good. We are told that all these property developments that are going on around Tuckahoe are a good thing because our taxes will soon go down because we're going to get lots of money. Not true. Taxes are going up up and up. The fact is, this budget is a huge problem for the taxpayers. You have a budget that I believe is out of control. You have spent way too much money to developers, and you still have a mediocre credit rating. The credit ratings agencies agree with me on this. Something I believe is really wrong here. Let me explain in a little more detail. Mr. Burke called this a tight budget. I disagree. First, taxes here have gone up at least twice the rate of Eastchester and Bronxville, 25% since 2011, since Mr. Eklund became mayor. Why, we should ask the mayor, why are they going up so much faster than the neighboring communities? We must have some answers. Second, you need to know that the village taxes are 55% higher here than in Eastchester. 55% higher. That's a big number, because you, in my estimation, have not been doing your job. 5 years ago, David Scalzo generously gave you an outline and a beautifully crafted report on why your budget was out of control, and made some very specific recommendations. You ignored Scalzo's work, so now you have a very bloated budget and no apparent desire to correct it. Let's talk specifics. Let's compare a family of 4 living in Tuckahoe compared to the same family living across the street in Eastchester. Their single-family home has a $13,000 total tax bill. So they pay about 25% of the tax bill, or $3,200, to the village. But in Eastchester, their tax bill is 40% less, or $2,000 per year. Just think, $1,200 savings just across the street into Eastchester. Why not just leave Tuckahoe? Why the disparity? There's one big problem with the budget: the police. Police services cost $500 per person in Tuckahoe, but only $300 per person in Eastchester. They are the largest item and the fastest growing. They have grown at above the inflation rate, 5% a year since you took office in 2011. For this family of 4, they are paying $2,000 per year for the police. But in Eastchester, they only pay $1,200. What is this family getting for that extra $800 per year? Is the crime rate so high here that we need to pay 65% more for police protection? Ask your mayor, ask you, and the trustees why. And let's recall all the tax rebates that have been given to their favorite developers, like over $300,000 last year. So this is why the budget is a big problem and needs to be fixed right now. I strongly suggest that the new trustees look very closely at this budget, because the current trustees and mayor have done nothing over the last 7 years, and they have ignored their constituents. So what is the answer? You need to cut, and you need to consolidate your services. Before we all go broke paying taxes on these so-called austerity budgets that you have given us year after year. It's time to do your job, Mayor Eklund, and your trustees. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your opinion. Anybody else have wish to
Do you
speak?
have any comments?
No.
No, you
I
don't.
asked,
You never have any comments, do you?
is there anybody else who would like to address the budget? So, yeah, comments from the board. I think it's actually a very fair budget. One of the things that we have to come to terms with is, how much do we want to sacrifice services? And at the end of the day, what we hear repeatedly is, people choose to live in Tuckahoe for a whole host of reasons. And, security, cleanliness, our Department of Public Works and Police Department are, I believe, second to none. And I think everyone would agree with me on that. So, there's a minimum cost for doing business, and we believe that we have that. Our department heads do a very good job in trying to keep the costs down to as minimum as possible. So, that's the position certainly that I take on it. So I'll throw it to my colleagues. Anybody else want to speak on the budget?
I would just like to say to Albert that I think you make a good point in that we should take a look at why our taxes are so different to the neighboring villages and neighboring towns. And do listen to our constituents to take a closer look at it and at least make that effort. So I would like for us to do that.
Absolutely.
I wish someone would answer why the police are so much more expensive here than the neighboring towns, especially Eastchester.
Well,
You
first
know-
of all,
you know why?
you're quoting some information that I don't
I took
necessarily
the- I
agree
took-
with, so.
From your budget, I took the amount of money and the budget here and the amount of money in the Eastchester budget, and I divided by the population. That's where I got the number. It's a very simple number. $500 here, $300 in Eastchester. It's a simple number. There's no argument about it.
It's not that simple.
not that
though.
simple.
You know, because basically, if we want to have our own police department and have our own village and municipality that has its own autonomy, then you get to a certain
Why
point.
is it
Bert-
more expensive, Tom?
I'll tell you why, Bert. If you let me finish, I'll tell you why. The reason it's more expensive is because if you want to have an entire department, you get the benefit of scale as there are more people. We happen to be a very small municipality, and as a result, in order to be fully staffed, you need to be able to have a certain number of things that Eastchester might not have to have extra for. Eastchester may be able to get away because they have a higher population with getting the benefits of scale that we do not. Now, if you advocate that we are no longer a municipality with our own ability to act autonomously, which I think is a mistake, then maybe you can look at consolidation and some way to dissolve the municipality in its entirety. In my mind, there are a lot of things about Tuckahoe that make it extremely desirable, and I see it in the Wall Street Journal. I see articles in the New York Times. I see it in Westchester papers of Tuckahoe being an incredibly welcoming and great place to live, both from an affordability standpoint and in terms of property values going up. I'll tell you, it's good that you are giving the negative perspective constantly. It's okay. We need to hear the negative perspective, even from you, constantly. However, there is another perspective, right? And there is a much broader perspective that's shared by our villagers who like to be here because of all the great things that are here. And in my mind, I've lived in this community my whole life. I saw Tuckahoe when I was a kid, and I see Tuckahoe now. There is no comparison. And I've seen those. Let me finish because I didn't interrupt you once. All right, good. So I'll tell you, even in the past 10 years that I've been on this board, and I'm not taking credit for this. I'm certainly not taking credit for this. But the improvements that I've seen in the standard of living, the community, the way our village looks, it's a place to be proud of. And so continue with the negative commentary. I also think you're completely wrong about fund balance. We're going in the right direction. I'm not saying that there haven't been some issues there, and we've talked about those issues ad nauseum at these meetings. We can continue to do so because it's a public meeting, but the fund balance is going in the right direction. And frankly, the way that our rating is going, it's going in the right direction, not the wrong direction. Let me finish, all right? We've been under, in the years that I've been on this board, we have been at or below the tax cap, I'd say, of the terms that I've been here, at least 5 times. We've gone over a couple of times, but we're pretty close to being at 2%. Now, the cost of living goes up more than 2% a year, right? If I were to give lower than a 2% raise to the employees at my company, they can't accommodate the cost of living. Things get more expensive. There's inflation. A 2% proposed budget is a reasonable budget. It's a reasonable budget. And I haven't seen, and we scour this budget all the time, there is nothing. We go line item by line item. There is nothing here that is waste. There is nothing in here that is waste. And so I agree with Elmira. We should be taking a look at it. And we will be looking for for our new trustees to be putting in their thoughts. Absolutely. We always have been. We always will be. So, from my perspective, I think that's constructive. We have open minds. We're certainly willing to cut where there's something that is non-essential that we can save the taxpayers money on.
And I'd just like to add one thing, Mr. Stern. I don't think I've ever seen you at a budget meeting. So other than to come to a public meeting where you can,
I couldn't speak
where
at
you
a
can
budget
stand.
meeting, could I, Mayor?
You are allowed to attend a budget meeting.
Am I
Absolutely.
allowed to speak at a budget meeting?
No, you can sit in the room and you can
Just watch, right?
you can sit in the room and you can listen, and that's where you get the nuts and bolts of listening to department heads discuss their budgets. And you have such a much, Trustee Andino and Trustee Lang have already started that process. That's going to continue, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and you really understand what the true cost of managing a municipality is.
Maybe you ought to ask the taxpayers if they're okay paying 50% higher than Eastchester for their services.
Again, that's your math, so I disagree with that, so.
What do you say it is?
I'm not saying anything, I'm saying I disagree
You're not
with
saying
your
anything?
number of
Okay,
50%.
thank you.
100% disagree with that. All right, so we've heard from the board. Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the police budget since it was a topic earlier in this conversation. And first by saying that I would compare our police budget to any police department in Westchester County for efficiencies. I think we are probably amongst the most efficient in the county. There are projects that we do as far as shared services. We share dispatching with Westchester County. There are 43 law enforcement agencies in Westchester County. We are the only one that shares that service. We have brought savings to the villages in many ways, working cooperatively with our neighbors at Eastchester and Bronxville. When we close down for the night on the midnight tour in Westchester County is dispatching our officers. Bronxville is housing our prisoners when that is possible and whenever that happens at zero cost to the village of Tuckahoe. We train with the village of Bronxville and Eastchester. We have a task force with Scarsdale, Bronxville, Eastchester, and Tuckahoe. We share our tactical services with Pelham, Bronxville, Eastchester, and Tuckahoe. So shared services, efficiencies, all of these things are not new to the Village of Tuckahoe Police Department. They've been in effect for many years. When you talk about cost per capita, certainly it's scalable. So if you compare to us to Eastchester, we're going to be more per capita, more per person than Eastchester. If you compared Eastchester to Yonkers and Mount Vernon, they would be paying a hell of a lot more per person because of the size of the municipality. So it's not a fair comparison to do it per capita. And when you talk about personnel and you talk about the Village of Tuckahoe and the density of the Village of Tuckahoe and the amount of people that are needed to police a high dense area as opposed to somewhere where properties are more spread out, that is a considerable factor in when and how you staff your police department, what are the goals and the missions of the police department. So look, constructive criticism is very good, as Deputy Mayor Giordano said, and as the other trustees all feel. We're all open to new ideas and thoughts, but I just need to clear the air about how the police department operates and our efficiencies.
Thank you. And in addition to that, too, and I think it's very, very important, and it cannot be underscored enough, is that the labor force of the Tuckahoe Police Department, they give back to this community. There's an awful lot of things that they do on their own time, not only with the police department, but also with DPW. And you don't necessarily get that. I'll bet you don't receive that kind of generosity and spirit from your workforce, maybe in New York City or some other larger communities, but you get it here. And I think that's very important to mention that. So anyway, thank you, Chief.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, please. Mhm.
Bert, I would like to invite you to please come to the budget meeting, and I'm very willing after the meeting, if you're not able to speak at the meeting, to hear from you and to talk to you about what your ideas are that we could change, because I think it really is important to hear from the residents.
Yep, we welcome all residents, please. That's why we get up early on a Saturday
Because maybe there's
morning.
something that we're not catching that maybe he is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Saturday the 21st, Bert.
Yep, 8:30. So with that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. That's going to bring us to the adoption of minutes, the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 5, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And the approval of the minutes of the reorganization meeting of April 2, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And that's going to bring us to our first opportunity to address this board on anything that's on our agenda tonight. Anything that's on this agenda? And if not, then we're going to move on to resolutions. And the first is Resolution Number 1, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby establishes the following as standard workdays for elected and appointed officials, and will report the following day's work to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on the record of activities maintained and submitted by these officials to the village clerk. And it is a standard work hour of 7-hour day. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Resolution number 2 is authorizing the mayor to execute a license agreement with the owners of 11 Jackson Avenue LLC to allow improvements to and use of village property adjacent to 11 Jackson Avenue as approved by the village attorney. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And just a little discussion about this. We talked about this at our work session. This is the old auto parts store that's up on Jackson Avenue, and the owner there is asking permission to actually improve the property that's in front of that building, and some of that property is village property. So pre-service, we're looking to take it.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And resolution number 3 is authorizing the designation of the official newspaper of the Village of Tuckahoe as the Eastchester Rising. Do I have a motion?
So,
So moved.
Second?
second.
And yeah, actually, first act of business, Trustee Andino, she picked up on this, the paper that we had originally designated. There was concern that they were actually going bankrupt. It turns out they weren't going bankrupt, but the Eastchester Rising is the old Eastchester Record, which has been around forever. So we, at our work session, we decided that we might as well keep it with the Eastchester, what I call the Eastchester Record, but it's now the Eastchester Rising.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And talk about breaking your budget. This is resolution number 4, authorizing a declaration of a traffic signal repair on an emergency basis exempt from the bidding procedures by Verde Electric Maintenance Corp. in the amount of $107,133.80. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Reluctant second.
Yeah, I know,
Second.
unfortunately. So what this is that everyone remembers on Midland Avenue and Winter Hill, the traffic light came down during the storm, and we had stop signs out there for a while, and that wasn't cutting it. So we had, if you drive anywhere in Westchester County, you see the green trucks, Verde Electric. You can't hire Joe and Sons electrician to come out and do a service like this. There's Verde Electric is really your only choice. So we were fortunate, I guess, that they were able to come out as quickly as they did and not wait until August. So they're able to get the job done. But as you can see, we didn't put $107,133.80 in the budget because we didn't anticipate that. We did put a claim in with our insurance company. We expect where that's going to go, which is nowhere. And we're hoping that all municipalities, our hope is that all municipalities in Westchester County have asked to go ahead and submit what their damage costs were for the storms that we've had, and possibly if there's a declaration, if there's an emergency declaration on a state or federal level, we might be able to get some money out of that fund. But bottom line is you got to pay the bill in 30 days, and that's what the bill we got. So we're Talk about a budget breaker. That's what we deal with up here.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And resolution number 5 is authorizing the payment of vouchers in the amount of $489,755.90. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And resolution number 6 is proclaiming April 28th, 2017 as Arbor Day in the village of Tuckahoe. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And we are going to have Arbor Day ceremonies, which is going to be on Friday. That's Friday the 27th, or 28th, rather. And our resident former county legislator, Sheila Marcotte, Sheila and I have been doing this for more years than I can remember. We actually do a presentation at ICS school. We give all the young students their saplings. Some years we planted trees on their property. And then we go up to Cottle School. So if any of the board members or any of the public wants to join in on that, it's great. Kids have a great day. And hopefully there's going to be no snow. We'll get our snow report from Mr. DeMarco soon.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Do any of the board members have any new discussion items they'd like to talk about? This is kind of an opportunity. Okay. And if not, we're going to go to our departmental reports of the board, and we're going to start with our chief of police, the award-winning recognized Chief John Costanza. Congratulations, our chief. The 3 chiefs of police, the 3 chiefs were recognized at the Chamber of Commerce dinner, and very fitting. We're very, very proud of you, Chief. So congratulations again.
Thank you, and thank you to the chamber. It was a really nice event, and I'm very appreciative of that recognition. Just a couple of, well, first of all, I want to welcome Trustee Andino and Trustee Lang. Look forward to working with you. And I'd also give my best wishes to Trustee Leo and Trustee Alfazi. It was a great experience working with them over the years, and I wish them the very best of luck. Just a couple of announcements. First of all, you'll see these patches displayed on every one of our police cars over the month of April. It is Autism Awareness Month, and it's just to bring awareness to the autism spectrum disorder and our support for those affected and their families. Welcome. I just want to also announce that the alternate side of the street parking is back in effect, so all the snow zone signs are down. The alternate side is effect for street cleaning. We truly hope that snow is not an issue the remainder of the year, although I think it's actually forecast overnight tonight, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. This past week, we actually participated in a multi-jurisdictional active shooter training with the village of Bronxville and the town of Eastchester. I just want to give my commendations and acknowledgments to the instructors of this course. It was Sergeant Chris Santiago of the Tuckahoe Police Department, Sergeant Nick DeYoung of Bronxville Police Department, Sergeants Glenn Carnaccio and Sergeant Rich Rosenberg of the Eastchester Police Department. You know, over the span of my career, I've attended many tactical courses. I was actually a SWAT operator back in the day, and I have to tell you that the caliber and expertise of instruction of these 4 individuals going over an active shooter training with every single member of all 3 departments working collectively, and the training was spot on. The commitment level of every single person training went a long way in building my confidence. And you know, we all pray and hope that we never have to put this training into motion, but I was very comforted in the level of training and the commitment of every single member, and I have every confidence that we could deal with any scenario that's thrown our way. So my hat's off to all involved in this training last week. And I know Trustee Giordano wants to talk a little bit about a SWIFT 911 notification system, and I'll come back up at that time. So if there's any questions from the board.
No, thank you very much. You know,
Thank you.
You provide a blanket of security for all of us here, so we appreciate that. Mr. DeMarco. So Frank always likes to give us the Joe Raya report. I don't think we're going to listen to that anymore.
I've decided not to do that tonight. I think by me not doing it tonight, it'll give us 70-degree weather by Saturday.
I'm here on Friday, actually.
But no, spring is here, so let's enjoy the spring and not talk about the winter or snow. I don't even want to mention the word. But I also want to welcome Danny. DPW family and myself would like to welcome Danny and Elmira to the board. And of course, as always, if I could ever be an assistance or anybody from DPW, we're only a phone call away. So please, any questions, feel free to call us. I also want to thank Antonio, Leo, and Steve Alfasi for serving their time here and being helpful to all of my needs and questions that I've had over the years. I have a few things that I just want to talk about tonight, but to piggyback what John was saying about sharing services with the police department, for those of you that don't know, so for the 10-year term that I've been here, we've been sharing services. This is nothing new, and I just want to reiterate that to people that don't know that. We're in constant contact with the Village of Bronxville, the town of Eastchester, and we're forever sharing services, equipment, machinery, manpower. This goes on a daily basis whenever needed. There's never questions asked, and there's never invoices that are passed across the table. This is done gratuitously. So just to let everybody know, this goes on a daily basis, if not weekly. There's a couple of topics I want to touch on that I'm constantly being asked about, is the pedestrian bridge, which crosses over the MTA. For those of you that don't know, the only problem that we're having presently is that we have Cablevision's fiber cables which feed the entire east side of Tuckahoe tracking across the bridge. They're presently working with Verizon and doing recognizant work to figure out what's the simplest way to bring those cable lines across the MTA tracks. Right now they're working on ways of getting it across the Main Street Bridge, and there are talk of possibility of drilling underneath the tracks to get the cable from one side of the track to the other. We will be meeting next week with Verizon Cablevision ourselves in determining what method they're going to be using, what they know as of today, and how we could expedite this as soon as possible.
How big a conduit do they need to run their line?
You know, they need something in reference to about a 2-inch line right now.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have found lines that are not being used, but they can't get across the bridge for some reason with the lines. They might have collapsed, they might have corroded. So this is where they're at right now. And we'll find out more next week once we sit down and talk to them about this.
Okay.
Midland Avenue is another topic that I'm constantly being asked about.
Boy, that's a real mess. I'll drive it
It
twice
is a
day,
mess.
yeah.
But I think the timing was perfect for us because they'll be done in 4 to 6 weeks. In doing so, it gives us the opportunity to blacktop, clean up the area. We're also going to be putting new curbing in along the west side of Midland Avenue, just to address the area coming in and out of Tuckahoe before it gets paved. So that's some of the things we're doing in-house. And obviously, Con Edison is paying for the entire pavement of Midland Avenue at no cost to the village. Since I've been here 10 years ago, I don't know if people also know that, we've implemented a curb-to-curb policy. There's no more patches in the street. Those patches are gone. And my thoughts on that is that if the utility companies are going to come in and destroy our roads, it's up to them to make sure they restore it above and beyond its original intent. So they do pay from curb to curb in all restoration that is done in Tuckahoe. Next, I want to talk about spring cleanup. I know spring is here. Everybody wants to clean their basement, throw everything they possibly can out of their house. What I ask is that they don't throw everything at once in front of their home. Please separate. If you have cardboard, separate cardboard for recycling. Metals on metal day, refrigerators, anything that you might have, please look at our schedule. Our schedule is clearly labeled. It's color-coded. It's easy to read, and it's located on our website on the DPW department. And again, anybody have any questions about what they're putting out, they could always call me and contact me. Most importantly, I ask that people be mindful and respectful of their neighbors. If they're putting garbage out, I don't want the garbage to be standing out there for days, especially on weekends. If you put it on a Friday, it's going to remain there all weekend. What they can expect from me and some of my men is a warning sticker. We ring your doorbell and we ask that you bring all your debris, garbage, bulk material back into your home or into your driveway for the weekend. We don't want to leave anything out. It's just an eyesore. And then following a warning will be a $250 fine. So we are very strict with that. I think it's very important that we keep our village clean and clear of any debris and not to make it an eyesore. Volunteerism. Ms. Povanovich, did I say that right?
No, you butchered that one, Frank.
No, I did.
Provenzano.
My God. I'm sorry, Erin. If I was only in Italian.
Okay, Mr.
Ms.
DeMarkowitz.
Provenzano, I am so sorry. I've been meeting with Erin. And, you know, there are people out there that do want to volunteer their services for always a great need. You know, we have what Erin is doing on the 21st, which is going to be the Earth Day. And the 22nd, did I get that correct? Is going to be Bronx River cleanup. How important are these jobs that people volunteer? I mean, you go home at the end of the day and say to yourself, wow, I can't believe I did this today. But even with the tree committee, the environmental committee, Bronx River cleanup, we should be doing this at least every 6 months, cleaning up our Bronx River. I remember when we were working on Yonkers Avenue and we were shoring up the road there. You know, there was a fish that I seen swim by with the plastic cover of a six-pack wrapped around its neck. You know, I think if more people seen this, they'd realize what a big help a lot more people could be to volunteerism. So please, if anybody wants to volunteer their services on Evans Day, on our day, whether it be the tree committee, whether it be the environmental committee, please reach out for me. We could always use your assistance. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to call me at the Department of Public Works. Any questions?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah, really appreciate it. All right. Camille, anything?
No report.
Okay. Gary?
No report, but I'd just like to welcome Trustee Andino and Trustee Lang. Look forward to working with both of you. And I know I've been working with Danny for a while, the zoning board, and big asset. And Trustee Andino, look forward to working with you.
Thank you. David? Nothing? Okay, all right. Miscellaneous business, as we mentioned before, we have a budget work session coming up on Saturday, April 21 at 8:30 in the morning. And we are going to have a village budget adoption. It's a special meeting on Monday, April 23rd, 2018. And that is going to bring us to our Board of Trustee member reports. And we're going to start with yours and my Deputy Mayor, Tom Giordano.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to echo the Mayor's congratulations to Chief Costanzo on his recognition by the Chamber of Commerce on this well-deserved honor. The Planning Board is meeting on Tuesday, April 17th at 7:30. There's 2 items on the agenda, 187 White Plains Road and 150 Main Street, which will be a new fitness center. The work session is already held on April 3rd at 7 p.m. The next zoning board meeting is at 7:30 p.m. on April 11th. The 180 Lake Avenue, 198 Midland Avenue, the fitness center on 150 Main, and then 100 Main Street to allow residential on the ground level. The work session is at 6:45 p.m. on that same evening. As the chief mentioned, I wanted to mention a service that the village and our town provides. It's called Swift 11, and I thought it was appropriate to mention to our residents, as some had made observations that we need to make sure that we're prepared in the event of an emergency to the village, and we believe that this is a service that allows for that. Dave, were you able to put the information on the screen? So essentially, this is a service by the Village of Tuckahoe and the Tuckahoe Police Department. And what it allows for is a relaying of urgent messages and notifications to your email account or by phone. Police or fire emergencies, major street closures or construction, storm or snow notifications, utility outages. Chief Costanzo has said that he'll also put a notification when it's time for you to renew your parking permit, so that you have some advance notice of that. And it's easy to sign up. You can go right to our village website, www.tuckahoe.com. You click on the Swift 911 banner, and then you click on Register Now, which will ask you for some information. Once you complete that information, it'll send to the method that you've determined a 4-digit code, which you then send back, and now you're signed up. I think, Chief, maybe you can speak as to how many we have, but it would be great to have the entire, all of our residents on that notification. I think it's something that will be critical to be able to get this information. You did it?
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Chief.
So as you mentioned, this is, Swift 911's been around about a year or so for us, David. And, but our subscription level is well below some of our neighbors who had other different notification systems in place for many years. So our goal is to bring that number up. We first started out with about 78 subscribers. As of today, we're well into the 200s. The police department has literally been going door to door throughout the village over the last couple of weeks, knocking on doors, trying to explain the system to the people that are home, and people that are not home, we leave the flyer behind with all the information of the benefits and how to sign up. We hope to hit the entire, we're about 50% through the village now. We hope to hit the entire village over the next couple of weeks. We do want to meet with the different tenant organizations in some of the larger buildings, because it's just not practical for our officers to walk through a 10-story building, for argument's sake, and it's just too manpower intensive. But if we could hit a group of tenant association meetings and hit large groups of people at the same time, ask for the building management and their help in dispersing information about the system. Our goal is to get into the thousands of subscribers, because as Trustee Giordano said, you know, in an emergency, it's very important for us to get a message out there, you know, what people should do, what they should be looking for, just general information. And, you know, it's a problem. I know a lot of residents just about 10 days ago were wondering, why was there a helicopter from Westchester County Police flying so low for a very long period of time in the north end of the village? And unfortunately, what happens is, you know, we try to get the message out, which we did using Swift 911, Facebook, and other social medias, but because we had such a low number of subscribers, you know, most people then in turn call the police desk and want to know what's going on. We have a one-person dispatcher, you know, on the 4 to 12, for instance, that evening, trying to coordinate a multi-jurisdictional search of a suspect who committed a robbery of a Eastchester gas station, and now he's trying to field calls about why is the helicopter flying so low. So if we have a method, in which we do have, but we need people to sign on to get that message out there, we could quickly explain what's happening, what safety precautions they should put in place for them and their families while the emergency is in effect. It goes a long way in increasing the safety and efficiency of everyone. So that's our goal, to get as many subscribers as possible. They can sign up for either email and text, and to get that message. We do have an ability to make a phone call to people who have their numbers registered with the phone company. The challenge that incident happened late in the evening. We didn't want to wake people up to tell them what was going on, so that's why we did not use the phone service for that particular incident. But if it was during the day, we probably would have reached out to people by telephone in that instance. So that's the purpose behind it, for emergencies, and as Trustee Giordano said, just simple notifications when permits are about to expire, or just general information that just makes people's lives a little easier.
I know the town, they also subscribe to the service, and I can remember in December there was the telephone portal section of that, the supervisor used that to communicate a message. So I remember getting that robocall at my house too. So, I mean, look, we subscribe to the service. We should really, try to maximize all the benefits out of it. So good, thank you. I know it's an arduous task to try and get everyone to sign up, but we'll get there. Okay.
That's all, Chief.
All right.
Chief, Mayor.
That's okay. Thank you. Trustee Andino, your first report.
Okay, so I'll start with. Sorry, I'm still learning this thing. I'll start with Greg Luisi's report. He's away. Where is he? He's
on vacation.
on vacation
someplace
somewhere.
warm where they're not predicting snow
Yes.
tonight.
So he asked me to report on the senior citizens report. Let's see, tomorrow, Sheila Marcotte, former county legislator, will visit the seniors tomorrow to present history of the Marble House School. On April 24th, Sydney Leone from MVP Health will present Sleep from A to Z's with a discussion about common sleep issues and hygiene. They're almost fully subscribed to the Westchester Broadway Theater's production of Sister Act on April 26th, but they said they get a lot of cancellations, so they encourage people to sign up for the wait list. So if you're interested in seeing Sister Act, which was awesome, I have to say I watched it, please go ahead and sign up for the wait list. There's a heads up that the annual meeting will be held on June 5th. We'll report on that again in May to remind everyone. Candidates for the positions of vice president and secretary will be voted on. The incumbents, Mary Laniti and Connie De Laurentiis, plan to run for re-election. So if anyone's interested in running, please contact Jennifer, the director, with the senior citizens. They also are working on details for upcoming trips, including a visit to Peddler's Village in New Hope, Pennsylvania, sometime in May or June. And the details are following. They don't have all of the information yet. They're trying to make sure that they keep the trips as affordable as possible, so that they need a high rate of attendance in order to do that. So they're asking that people sign up for these events. So that's Greg Luisi's report. The seniors do meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 10 and 2 about. So they're asking everybody to come out and join the seniors. I had the pleasure of my first visit was with the seniors, and I didn't want to leave that day. They're more youthful than I am. They were exercising and dancing. It was a really great program. So I enjoyed that. I am now the liaison for the public library. I visited today with the Friends of the Tuckahoe Library, and they had so many events, some of which I won't be able to even get to, but they asked me to inform everyone that on April 10th, they have at noon Reiki meditation. If you're into Reiki meditation, you should attend that. On April 24th, they are offering computer classes at 11 a.m., and you can get all of this on the library website. April 11th, 5 to 6:30, they're going to have Indian folk dancers present. They have 2 women from Japan coming who actually learned Indian folk dance, and that looked really, really interesting. There are some flyers available for that. On April 18th, they're doing a retirement seminar. Can't stress enough how much we often don't plan for retirement, so it's free. It's at 6:30. I encourage everybody to get out. On April 13th, 12 to 3 p.m., they're doing a tax aid program through AARP. And I thought it was really great that they're offering free SAT and ACT prep classes. One already passed April 7th, but the space is very limited. They can only have 20 students. So April 14th and 21st, they still have space available, 11:30 to 1 p.m. So those are some of the events coming up there. I also learned today that they offer, people have the ability to go to some of the different museums at the libraries, picks up the tab for you. So some of the museums that you can go to are the Intrepid, Hudson, Children's Museum, Katona. So I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but these are some really good events and some nice perks that the library offers for free. They also have some downloading of free songs and books. There's a book club. So there's just a lot more. So check out the library website. They have a lot to offer. So I like that. Also, let's see here. During my campaign, I pledged to really increase the type of communication that we offer to the residents. And many residents said that they would like for us to offer things that they're going to get either in their email, electronic, or hard copies. So we're going to restart the village newsletter, and I understand that there was one at some point. So we're gonna restart the village newsletter, have an electronic version and a printed version, so that we could offer some printed copies to the seniors at the senior center, the library, some local businesses possibly. I really would like to thank Sarah DeReese, who agreed, and the board. I've spoken to the mayor, who's agreed to help us with this. Sarah, she really understands the importance of communication. She's had experience working with village websites, social media. She's going to help us start the newsletter, and that will be the beginning of the different types of communication that we want to bring to the residents. I also just want to, at this point, encourage the residents to get involved. Come out. I was really glad to see the number of people here today. We work for you. We're accountable to you. It's not the other way around. So we need you to hold us accountable, and you have to be involved to be able to know what it is that you need and that you want, so that you can communicate it to us. This is not easy sitting up here trying to make all these decisions, but we need your support, and we need your input, and we need for you to tell us this we want and this we don't want. So that's my report.
Thank you. Constructive dialogue is absolutely what we need. Thank you. Trustee Danny Lang.
All right. My first report. So this is the history report. On April 5th, a program on the history of Tuckahoe marble was given at the Tuckahoe Library by Philip White. On the 25th, Phil White and Nick Zanzano are doing a program on the Tuckahoe marble at the Eastchester Rotary Club. We are currently updating our index in order to easily locate items of interest. The committee is always searching for pictures of old Tuckahoe wedding pictures, information on past residents. They meet every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And all visitors are welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be brief tonight. I want to talk a little bit about Memorial Day weekend. I'll talk more about this at our May meeting, but over the last couple of years, I've had people approach me and say, hey, how come we don't have a Memorial Day parade down Main Street anymore? And I think the answer to that is that we have such an aging veterans population that it's a little bit it's very challenging for them to actually march in a parade procession. So they started something last year, and they're going to do it again this year. So I want people to save the date. It is going to be on the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. And this is going to be a program that's going to be held in the Eastchester High School auditorium. They just totally renovated that auditorium, by the way. It's beautiful. And it's going to be in the evening. I forget what time it is, but I'm looking to get some of the veterans to come here at our May 7th meeting and discuss it a little bit more at length. So anyone who's not going away for the holiday weekend, just stick around. Sometimes it's pretty warm. It's going to be nice and cool in there, and you really get this year it's the 100th anniversary of World War I. So they're going to do a little extra special presentation, including some individuals dressed in costume, in period correct costume. So it's going to be a great ceremony. So I just want people to kind of save the date for that. And that's basically it for me. So this is the second opportunity to address the board on anything at all. It's going to be the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, yeah. Yes, sir.
Anthony Fiore, 3 Business Place. All I want to say is congratulations to Danny and Elmira, and also to Steve Alfonsia and Tony Leo for their dedicated service. And to you, Danny. We're going to miss you on the zoning board. Yeah. Oh, well, I'll keep the seat warm for you till we get somebody.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. That's okay.
But anyway, I'm here on behalf of the VFW Post that's on Midland Place, and I was actually expecting some of the residents from the new building to be here, but I guess they're not, so if you're watching, this one's for you. I understand that for many of the people who recently moved into the complex on Midland Place, that the VFW Post has become a thorn in your side. I apologize that your management corporation did not inform you that people actually live on that street. I have lived across the street from the VFW Post for 22 years. I raised a daughter there and have never had a problem with noise or disturbance. A nice fact that you should know is walking into the VFW Post, the walls are filled with photos, newspaper clippings, plaques, and flags dedicated to grandparents, mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters, etc., of our community who have and are still proudly serving our country. The VFW Post has been on Midland Place for almost over 70 years. For many, there's nothing but fond memories in there. As a community, the VFW Post has also allowed us to fundraise to make contributions to Walks for Autism, traveling sports teams to help with their trips, uniforms, and equipment to the Shiloh Baptist Church, and many other important events that affect our community. I'm sorry, I lose my track here. I also grew up in a very quiet, small community, and I was not used to noise and traffic, but living where I live now, I have a feeling of family and friendship that I would never, ever have learned or had before this. Although I empathize with many of you that find the VFW a nuisance, we find that it is a haven for neighbors, families, and friends, new and old, to get together, relax, socialize, and listen to good music. Although I have seen many of you, some on the board, in the post before, we are sending an invitation to everyone here, as well as our new neighbors, to come and join us. You may surprise yourself and have a good time. The door is always open, but only if the light is on. So, since there's been many, many complaints given to the police department on a numerous basis, sometimes at 7 p.m., sometimes at 6:15, sometimes at 11 p.m., I kind of feel it's a little bit sort of on the level of harassment, and I can appreciate where everybody's coming from. You move into a place, your management corporation is going to let you know that there's actually human beings that live, that there's a social club in the area. But there's also other things that go on Midland Place. There's a community center, a recreation room that could be rented. There's people who live there. There's people who are allowed to sit outside on the benches and communicate and laugh and joke with their friends. But the thing that I find extremely shameful about this whole situation is that the same people that are calling the police department 5, 6, and I'm sure that the chief can say the same, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, middle of the night, early in the morning, everything. These are the same people that aren't calling to complain when they're walking their dogs at 6 a.m. and the dogs are barking and disrupting everyone in our buildings, that they're walking their dogs down to the end of Midland Place. And then they're also not complaining that the new pavement stops right at their driveway, but our sidewalks are cracked, our street is broken, that they have metered parking so that they can have their friends and family come, but when they want to park on the street, they take up all of our parking spaces because now that's metered parking, so it doesn't disrupt the way the buildings look. I find it really disgusting that they're not complaining about the pavement not being extended all the way down so that when their friends and family and their company comes down and looks down the street, it doesn't look like, oh, that's them, this is us. I find that really disruptive, and I find it very shameful, and I find it very sad that people have nothing better to do but complain about some people gathering just to play a little music and socialize and have a good time. The door's never closed to anybody. It's an open environment for everybody. So on that note, if anybody's watching, please feel free to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to congratulate. My name is John Henry Smith III. Everyone calls me Smitty. I've been in Tuckahoe for 66 years. All my life, I went to kindergarten and first grade in this building. When it comes to Tuckahoe, I know pretty much, well, what is it I shouldn't know? But the night of, in question, she made a lot of beautiful points. The way the police responded to a noise violation or whatever, noise complaint, it wasn't nice the way they did it. It was kind of threatening to say, we're not going to warn you anymore if you're outside. We will just start handing out summonses. You don't do that, okay? It's a non-smoking establishment. People have to go outside to smoke. If the noise is tough, the people who hear that noise, then Danny can tell you. He came down, him and what was your buddy, Miss Louis? Yes. We had a great time. But when you go outside, if somebody's getting loud, we tell them, quiet it down, quiet it down. How can noise run out of a building and bounce off some walls? I don't know. But it was just handled wrong, and I'm quite sure I could talk to the chief about that on another occasion. But I appreciate him coming down and asking questions on how we can better communicate with the people in that big building where Dan Castagna had Crestwood RV and Marine.
That's right.
Okay. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Can I just speak to that issue?
Sure.
I'm just wondering, Chief, if there's something that we could do to maybe bring the residents together to discuss this issue. Sometimes we just need to hash it out. And I don't know if anything has happened along those lines.
Yeah, so yes, we have reached out to the commanders of the VFW to sit down and meet with the police department, village board, the people who frequent and socialize at the VFW, and the people that live next door at 64 Main Street. So that process has begun to get everyone to sit at a table and hopefully come up with a compromise with closing hours that might be fair and to everybody, equitable to everyone involved. Just to Mr. Smith's point, the purpose of the police officers going there early in the evening before there was an issue was to say, if there's a complaint and it's found to be valid, somebody's going to be given a citation. This is after probably several dozen complaints of noise, some valid, some not, and not one single citation has ever been issued. The police department is very respectful of the VFW post, all the people that frequent it, nothing but respect for everyone that uses that facility. So it was not to be adversarial in any way. It was really just to say, who's in charge? We want to make sure that the level of noise is acceptable throughout the evening, not just at 7 o'clock in the evening, but as it runs into past midnight, which it often does. And again, it's not a matter of people using the facility, it's just making sure that our neighbors can get the rest that they need. You know, I know that there are people within the Tuckahoe housing property, there's people who live on Midland Avenue. So it's not really just the new facility. The new facility has compounded the issue. But I mean, for many, many years, every once in a while, party gets a little loud, gets a little out of control, and particularly when it's a school night, we want to address those issues.
I'm certain you'll work it out. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. You're next. I'm sorry.
Hi, I live on Marbledale Road. My name is Kimitra McCrae. I respect what the chief is saying. All I want to say is there's a recreational room across the street from the post, and at times it's part of Tuckahoe housing, and at times there's a party there. It seems to me, especially last weekend, what I witnessed, that every time there's a noise complaint, it's brought right to the post. And I think what disturbed the patrons over the past weekend was not the fact that anybody in charge was contacted, because we didn't have any knowledge of that. We were sitting in there. There wasn't a DJ. What night was that? Friday night. Nobody, it was no DJ. And the cops were already there to tell us that we were going to be summoned. Of course, that makes people uneasy. When you walk in, you're going to be summoned. And then they came back the next night. I'm not saying that, I know the cops have to do their job. If they get a call, they need to come out. If it's a noise complaint, everybody wants the cops to come when they're called. The thing is, the people felt very uncomfortable that were sitting in there because they came 2 nights in a row. And what happened was, as a matter of fact, that was not last weekend, that was the weekend before. What happened was, last weekend, we called ahead of time to see if the noise, the music was at a level that was acceptable. I just know that maybe because I worked in corporate America, there's a chain of command. And I feel as though the patrons should not have been told what's going to take place and what is what. I feel as though the higher-ups should have been contacted. It made for an uncomfortable situation.
Meaning the post commander?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It made for an uncomfortable situation that didn't have to be. You know, the door is always open. All of the residents walk by with their dogs. We speak to everybody. This is a nice community.
Right.
It really is. I've been gone for a while, but I'm back now, and I plan on attending more of these meetings. But it's a nice community. So all you had to do was knock on the door. Hey, this is a little bit too loud. But when we come outside, we don't hear any music or any noise or anything like that. So it's just the way it came across was that it was worse than what it was, and it's not a place that has to be patrolled every 5 minutes or called on every 5 minutes. We are willing to work with the people in those buildings as long as they're willing to work with us. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Christy Giorgio, 50 Columbus Avenue. I have a question about the Swift 11 or 11. Does the service allow for the residents to communicate through that to the police department?
I don't believe so, but don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
Chief,
it goes.
I think it's just a one-way. Yeah,
Just wanted, that popped into my head. I thought I'd ask that question.
good question.
Now that the political season is over, I have a concern about the letter in question from last month that I want to bring up. I had the pleasure of having 7 weeks of jury duty. And in those 7 weeks of jury duty, I had a discrimination case. Long story short, that discrimination case had 7 weeks of testimony with 7 weeks of a lot of emails back and forth and paper trail. And when I saw that letter that was distributed, I was really concerned for the village with regard to intent. And I'm not a lawyer, but being there 7 weeks, I kind of got some education. And what I learned was that the discrimination laws basically say that in least or in part, this person was discriminated against. And so when I saw that letter, I have to say to you, when I did my deliberation in that jury room, there were 2 women who were very much saying this person was discriminated against. And 4 of us, including me, kind of said, well, we don't see much here. And so there was one email that really stood out to us. And that one email was the crux of the case for us. And why I bring this up to say to you is that one letter that was distributed carelessly might paint a picture if, and in fact, you let go of a woman employee, a person of color, someone from Peekskill. I just want to say to you that it was very concerning to me after my 7 weeks of jury duty. And I want to just say, P.S., that woman got, the person who filed the complaint, got $2 million in damages and $250,000 in back pay. So So, and I would say to you, we didn't have a lot of evidence, but there was that one email, and that one email tipped the balance. So all I'm saying is that I hope we can be careful with regard to, even in political season, when things can kind of have a different color. Because when you do sign a letter and you are on the village board, you know, lawyers are really great. They'll pull everything out. Believe me, I saw a lot out there for 10 years of testimony. I mean, 10 years of correspondence. So I'm just saying to you that it was concerning to me to see that. And I would just ask that we can consider that. And I just want to say something to my friend Tom Giordano. Tom, I'm going to say this very constructively to you. Steve Quigley was the conscience of the Democratic Party for us. Whenever crap came rolling around, it was Steve who said, no, we're not doing it. I'm asking you on the Republican side to think about being the wise counselor on the Republican side. You're the lawyer of the group. That's why I'm putting it on you. I will pledge my best as an old hand on the Democratic side to be fair. Now, we're going to talk about issues. That's always important. Talk about taxes, talk about all the things we need to do. But when it comes to things that separate us, you know, you and I have broken bread. I've broken bread with the mayor. But I just find you to be a person of some integrity. We had a very wonderful breakfast a few years ago at MLK, and I really enjoyed your company. We had a good conversation. And you're a father. I think you, out of anybody, and you're a lawyer. And that's why I'm putting it to you, because Steve was a lawyer on our side, and he really understood some of this stuff. And I'm just asking you, as someone who I respect, to think about that and to say to the Republican chair, you know what? Pass it by me. So that's just what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to just
Sure,
respond briefly.
absolutely.
Chris, first of all, I do take what you say with integrity, and I've found you to be a person of integrity as well. So thank you for giving me that charge. I'm going to say this, that to the extent we are having conversations about mutual respect and keeping things to a level of humanity and decency, even in the face of our differences, you are right, that is of primary importance. We all live within a mile of one another. So, so thank you for that, and appreciate what you're saying with the intent that it was given to us. So thank you. Thank you.
And I think you know us well enough, too, that, you know what, after Election Day, the day after Election Day, you're reading yesterday's newspaper, and I read today's paper, and you know, hope for the best for tomorrow. And I know that Trustee Andino and Lang both know now that, you know what, once you've earned the respect from the citizens of our community to sit up here, we have a job to do, and it's not politics. It's, you know, just making decisions on what's best for everyone who lives here. And I respect both of their opinions. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mike Giordano, 62 Chestnut Street. Addressing this issue, which I kind of had heard about before, I was at an event, and by the way, I love VFW Halls. My first wedding was there, but that's a whole other story. But what I wanted to say is I was at an event last week for the Business Council of Westchester, and it was a youth summit. And Mr. Brown was there from ECAP. And one of the things that was discussed by the keynote speaker was an issue that was happening in Stamford at the time, a while back. Stamford has gone through a lot of transitions. And one of the things that he mentioned was there was some issues with the community, with the police and whatever, some other issues. And what they did was, instead of protesting, they had a block party. And this block party solved a lot of issues. We are all people, but I think it has to be an ongoing process. The people in that building are renters. I'm a renter, okay, but I've lived here since 2000. And I think it needs to, because people will go in and out of there, so I think it needs to be an ongoing thing, because the more they understand that we're all cool, I think there's always going to be someone that's going to be a pain in the butt. That, we get that. But I think an ongoing discussion, and keep inviting them over, because renters change. And I think they have to know that. And I don't think anyone's disrespecting, I hope not disrespecting, the memory of the VFW people. That's critical. But I think that sort of dialogue is important, and keep inviting them. I'll definitely want to come check it out. I don't drink anymore, but I'll have soda. But I think it's. But I think it's worth to keep doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will. Absolutely. I think it's important. That'd be great. Absolutely. Three quick things. One is, in looking at the website in this whole communication thing that we're talking about, I noticed that there's an ethics committee and an environmental committee. Now, on the website, it doesn't say who's on there. So I would just like to suggest we put who's on there, and then I think the environmental committee hadn't put anything up since 2015, I believe. Like, they had little blurbs of a newsletter that actually four posts happened in the same day, in November of 2015. So whoever's on that environmental committee, who's ever on that ethics committee, I think it makes sense. Now, in fairness, not every town puts who's on their committee, but some do. I think Rye and a few others actually put the names of the people on the committee, and they'll state it doesn't meet very often. That's the ethics committee. But I know that we're part of Sustainable Westchester. Okay, and I think that's important. I think people need to know that we're part of Sustainable Westchester, not just the town of Eastchester, but the town of Tuckahoe. And given that we had a beautification committee, given that the environmental committee may be able to, and might be possibly be involved once we deal with some issues on Marbledale outside of the brownfield, I think it makes sense to just solidify that so we know who's on there. The third thing is that I am almost done with the ECAP negotiations, and it looks like what we're going to do is initially the 10 to 12-year-olds are going to go on these trips to local businesses. We're going to probably pick 3 or 4. We may be doing them by category, like restaurant or manufacturer. It all depends on who will let us go in. And the goal would be to bring them there, to let them experience, maybe make a pizza, and get the kids a chance to see at that level between the 10 and 12 years. The little kids, not so much. Then in the summer, we're going to invite the high school kids, and we're going to take them on tours, and there'll be business people who are going to volunteer to help escort them and work with these kids and the business owners to educate them. And then another thing that came up is perhaps internships, and maybe talking to the DPW about getting some kids, I don't think they've done that in the past, learning how to use a rake instead of a weed blower. But we thought we might talk to the village about internships and then see what business. I know there's legality issues and things of that nature, but I think it makes sense, because if we can do that and sort of be a leader in that, then I'd be willing to volunteer my time, which I'm going to anyways, but I'm volunteering my time to talk to the press about it, to let the press know that Tuckahoe's doing this, ECAP's doing this for these kids, because then Mr. Brown can bring that to other villages and other businesses. We have to do it. We have to do it. We can't depend on other people to do it. So I think it's a really important thing. I think it's going to be a great program. I hope to have more update next month, because we're very close to figuring out the logistics. But I think an internship program would be a wonderful thing. We could be a leader. It's not really a...
We do have now, the schools actually, they give us Children to the Wise program. So we do have that program, and Frank gets normally somebody down there from the school who is a computer programmer. Every kid today is over 5 is a computer programmer, it seems. So, but yeah, I mean, absolutely, that sounds like a really good program.
And so when you rake leaves, you get to decide what you want to do with your life when you're raking, and there's nothing wrong with raking leaves. You can say, I love doing this, or you can say, you know what, I rake leaves, I want to do something else. I think that's important. And we document it, and we put it in our newsletter. We document it on social media. We have a great jewel of a gem here of a village, and there's a lot of, this is not doing stuff that's arduous. We're already there, so I think that that's important. So I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Anybody else? All right, we had a good meeting. Thank you very much. And with there being no other business tonight, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting. So do I have a second to that? Doesn't work. It would be good, though. All right. But I'll take that. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Have a very good evening.
Good night.
Until next time.